Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another round of the PC Tier 5 World Online Racing season. And the drivers tonight, they are going to take on the Marina Bay Street Circuit. Tonight, I am joined by, for the first time this season, by who will be alongside me, hopefully, for the majority of this season, your regular Tier 5 commentator, Max Ring. Good evening, Max. How are we? I'm very good. I'm very excited to start watching the action that we've got ahead of us tonight. From the looks of things in the console side, on Thursday and Friday we got some very exciting races, and yeah, I mean, Singapore is a track that can always throw something exciting up. Well, we're watching on board now with Ironut as he heads through the first couple of corners. The first sector, as the first three corners are pretty much just interlinking with each other. Turn 5 is the first real one where it's not affected by any of the other corners. Now, heading out a slight kink with turn 6 where you have DRS activated, so you really don't want to struggle there. And then out of turn 7, again, another place where you're likely to invalidate with just that little bit of curbing, a little bit too high, maybe higher than you expect, and then you come down to the section that used to be the Singapore Sling. It is no longer. Instead, it is just plain old turns 10, 11, and 12, still referred to as the Singapore Sling, but it is not as exciting as it used to be. Now the power's down, the DRS is open. Daniel has retired from the session early on. We'll try and see what's happened to him. He's just lost it. He's lost it on the exit of turn number 8. And that is the end of the Aston Martin session already. But watching on board with Ironut as we complete a lap, we've just gone past what used to be the bridge section. It is no longer, at least for the time being. Ironut around the final corner. You don't want to push too hard and off the circuit, but he's done pretty okay. And he's got a 126.331. We'll see how that stacks up against the rest of the grid. Nicholas comes across the line with a 1 minute 26.5, and Dallin McTeer slots into P2 with, well, a 126.6 as well, only just ahead of Nicholas by 300. So pretty tight already, the limited amount of times that we've had set so far. We'll get a few more. Danko across the line, 126.7. Christian Lubinov slowest of all so far. NSR slotting his way into that 3/10 gap between Ironut and Dallin McTeer. Robert Dinilescu, slowest of all. Tim Bayer, quickest of all. The Alpine goes up into the lead with a 126.256. So a solid lap there from the man who scored no points last time out because of the fact that he had an incident with Nicholas. They were trying to fight their way back up after going for the undercut, and it went very, very wrong for them. Speaking of the man who benefited, Justin Chevalier, the race winner last time out, and Bayer's teammate, he slots into P4 with Mouchoir in P5. Just a couple of drivers now left to set times on this first run, at least. Alfie is one of them, Ariane Sanger is another. He's just heading through the first sector. Joris has invalidated and he heads in as we've got our second retirement of this session. Ryan Banink even looks like he's had problems. We'll try and ride on board with Alfie as we'll... Nope, he's now despawned, so we won't be able to see what happened to Ryan Banink, but it must have been pretty similar to what happened to Daniel because it was in that segment, that turn 8, turn 9. Anyway, Alfie round the final corner, 126.4. He slots into third place, but curious that we've seen 2 retirements already with 12 minutes on the clock, and they've both been between turn 8 and turn 9.
Of the timing tower, and that is going to be an extremely difficult lap to beat. Chris Yu now coming in to the final corner using a lot of momentum, a big slide, brilliant save though from Chris to keep that car facing in the right direction and keeping it out of the wall, but super committed, super brave. That's what you need to be around these streets here in Marina Bay, and unfortunately for Chris, just went a little bit wide, and that would have cost him dearly on a huge amount of time. Who else is on a lap? Giovanni Brazil has unfortunately invalidated. Timon Voss has just started his lap in the kick Sauber, so heading through turn 3, picked up the power ever so nicely as you head up through that little kink of turn 4, which then leads you into turn 5, down to 4th gear. Pick the power up nicely, get as close to that outside wall as you possibly can as you pick up the DRS. You look to just clip the white line at turn 6 and then braking out 100 meters through turn 7. Hit that outside curb, get a nice ride over it as you then go late on the brakes. A lot of natural understeer through turn 8. Same with turn 9 as well. You just a bit off camber, so the car just naturally generates out wide. Clipping the outside wall there was Timon. That's not going to help him as he heads into turns 10, 11 and 12. Nicely done through 10, 11. Just maybe a little bit wide on corner exit. That's going to affect his momentum all the way up to the hairpin. Let's see how nicely he gets this. Use all the track you possibly can. DRS open. This is where you start to burn the battery as you head down into turn 14. Late on the brakes once again. Make sure you don't clip that outside wall. Use all the track as you possibly can as you then head through turn 15. Unfortunately, we don't have that final sector in place, so this now adds another overtaking opportunity into the final chicane. A bit of a slide there for Timon. It's been a bit of a scrappy lap here from the kick Sauber as he's coming up to the line through the final corner. DRS open. Where's he going to go? He goes 13th fastest. Was a very scrappy lap. Knows there is going to be some time in the bag, but unfortunately for Timon, at the minute, it's one of the slowest lap times we've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a little bit scrappy for the kick Sauber as he headed through. It's going to be scrappy early on and probably late on in this session and in the race itself, because Singapore is just such a difficult track to get a grasp of. It's one of those where one mistake could lead to another, and then lead to another, and then you're completely out of the session pretty much, and you're really, really struggling. It's a momentum game, especially around Singapore, and yeah, some drivers will really, really struggle with that tonight. Those who are very, very quick over one lap pace, maybe don't have the racecraft, are really going to struggle tonight. But then it may bring new competitors to the fore. Those who maybe aren't the quickest, but are certainly the most consistent on this grid. And yeah, at this early stage in the season as well, we're looking at these drivers as pretty much new entities. We want to see what they can do. We want to see what they can develop into. And we want to see their strengths and weaknesses. So far, some of the drivers that have been the quickest. Ironut's been up there consistently. He could be coming around the final corner as Mikolas goes up into P2. Ironut, he's looking for P1. He takes P1. 125.928 is the time that the RB can set. And now... well, he's just displaced Ariane Sanger. His teammate heads up into 4th place. Danko, yeah, he moves up into 4th ahead of Tim Bayer. So the Alpines, who set pretty decent early lap times, they find themselves in 5th and 8th place now. So the track evolution could be coming into play. 125 is a bit more of a realistic target than it was before. And so I'm sure we'll see a few of the drivers heading into those times. Joris struggling again, invalidating on his lap. Who was that? That was NSR jumping into 2nd place. 3rd driver to be in the 125s. And it's a solid 125 as well. Justin Chevalier moving up ahead of his teammate Tim Bayer. He's around the final corner. He wasn't improving in the first 2 sectors. Can he do something in the 3rd? Indeed he can. He's improved by just under a 10th. He replaces his teammate in that 6th position. But I think that's all the drivers that have done laps for now. I'm just having a look to see. Where's Robert Dinilescu? He's invalidated on his lap. Where's his teammate is on an in-lap. Ariane Sanger, he's on a push lap, I believe. So we'll watch as the Haas heads through the first sector. He's got a lot of traffic to compete with, which I know they're ghosting, so it won't affect him physically, but mentally it will affect him as he's 0.16 seconds up in the first sector. That is an incredible gain, and the Haas is really making a statement, especially if he can hook this lap together. Don't invalidate, though, as he heads through on turn 8. Bit of a wobble, but he was absolutely fine, and now heading through as if the corners barely exist. Ariane Sanger is just throwing the car as if the barriers barely exist as well. Little bit of a lockup on the right front as he heads into the hairpin, but pretty much everyone's done that so far because of how tight it is. Where is he going to be across the second split time? It's 2 tenths up, and he's just got 1 sector to go now. An easy sector because of the fact that we've gotten rid of that bridge section, but he's got that traffic to contend with. The kick Sauber gets out of the way. The next driver up is, I believe, one of the Alpines, and then it's one of the Mercedes. He might not even have to compete with them, though, as they come into the pits. And Sanger throws his car around the final corner. What sort of time is the Haas going to set? It's going to be pole position. It's going to be a dominating pole position as well. 125.744. Almost 2 tenths up on Ironut in 2nd place. That is a statement of intent.
It certainly is. Sanger throwing down the gauntlet at this midpoint of the session, just before we're about to get these final runs underway. I don't think actually no, Tom and Voss has just started another lap. He's a bit out of sync compared to everybody else, so he's going to try, and he's actually invalidated as soon as he started through turn 2. Very easy to do around this circuit though. Just running a little bit wide, maybe taking a bit too much curb through the first corner can really hinder you, and it just bounces you off those track limits, and unfortunately you pick up that invalidation. Drivers coming out for another run, they're going to be cutting it fine at this stage of qualifying if they want to get that final run on the board. Around that 3-minute mark, Dallin McTeer is on a lap, currently sitting in 14th place, finished 2nd last time out, to be looking to try and get onto that top step of the podium as he's heading through turn 10 and into 11, taking a lovely amount of inside curb, but through turn 12, tapping the wall slightly. That's not going to do him any favours, and very deep into the turn 13 hairpin. This is going to make this lap all but over, you would think, heading through the middle sector split now. Yes, he's down by 21 thousandths. This is nowhere near going to get into those 1 minute 25. Still a bit scrappy through turn 14, wide through 15, taking a different approach to everybody else into the final chicane. Then later the brakes down to 3rd gear over the first curb, and then rides too much of the second. And unfortunately there, actually, it's raining. It's raining here in Singapore. I did not notice that. Maybe that's why Dallin was struggling so much and everyone's come out so soon. But Sanger might have just thrown down his gauntlet at the perfect time, because it has started to rain, and that could make his lap utmost impossible to reach, as it is raining, and it is raining hard here in Marina Bay. Under the lights, the Haas man might have just made the lap of all laps when the pressure was on, as Ironut starting a lap now. He will need a miracle if he wants to get anywhere near the Haas driver's time.
Yeah, with some of the drivers retiring as well, that is an opinion echoed up and down the paddock. We will see as Ironut desperately throws his car through the first sector, maybe pushing a little bit over the limit in the hopes that the gambles will pay off and he can gain those 2 tenths. But he's 1.5 tenths down on his time, and he's just invalidated. Yeah, that will probably be the last official run of this session. NSR is going for another one. He's in 3rd place currently. We'll see what his time is as he comes across the split, but if it's anything like Ironut's, it's not going to be an improvement and it's going to be that third place is solidified for the Aston Martin. Yeah, another 10th and a half that he is not improving by. Some of these drivers, they're surely going to give up on these laps very, very soon. I mean, Redmers and Chrisu we saw retire out of choice because they really didn't think that they were going to be able to do anything this evening, anything further than what they've already done. And in Joris's case, he's not done anything at all. Chrisu is 3/10 off Timon Voss with an... I mean, it's unlikely that that was the lap that he would want to have represented himself. Yannick Alexandrov as well. He's in the 127s. The only two drivers to be in the 27s other than that, Ironut, NSR, and Ariane Sanger, on the complete contrast, are in the 125s. And Sanger has decided that this is the end of his session with 2 minutes 20 on the clock. This could be your grid for the Tier 5 Singapore race, with Ariane Sanger on pole position, Danko in 5th place, his teammate, and then Ironut in 3rd, MSR in... Ironut in 2nd, NSR in 3rd, and Nicholas in 4th, just filling the gaps. Then Tim Bayer and Justin Chevalier, the two Alpines, 6th and 7th, the two Mercedes in 8th and 9th, Alfie leading Redmers. Then it's Robert Inalescu, Ironut's teammate. He's in 10th place with Christian Lubanov in 11th. The two teammates that worked together so well to gain Dallin McTeer a podium and Giovanni Baruzza points last time out. Giovanni Baruzza will be starting from P12. McTeer will be starting from P14. Splitting the two is Mouchoir. Then Ryan Banink, who set a 126.6 before binning it on the Exeter turn at number 8. He will start from P15 with Timon Voss, Mouchoir's teammate. He's in 16th. Chrisu in 17th. Yannick Alexandrov in 18th. Daniel, who did not set a time, he was the first one actually to retire from the session after crashing on the Exeter turn number 8. He will start on the back row of the grid alongside Joris, who has struggled to set a time, who is actually trying to set a time at the moment. He's on those softs, so I'm surely he doesn't still think it's dry conditions. There isn't actually that much rain, at least from my vision. There is a few spots, but some of the drivers seem to be struggling a little bit more than my view would let on. Joris through the first sector 26, then through the second sector split time. Never mind, because he's just lost the end plate on his car, and I'm sure he's going to continue with this lap, trying to make it at least valid so he can jump Daniel into that P19 spot. Or he's just going to do some fun donuts, and we can watch as the Ferrari struggles for traction. It must be so much worse than it looks out there, as there's only a few spots of rain on the screen. But Joris is really struggling to keep it on the track, and he and Giovanni Baruzza will be the last ones out on the circuit. Baruzza 2 seconds down in the second sector alone, and he'll come across the line for the checkered flag. 6.2 seconds down on his time. So, not really the improvement that he was looking for. Joris, though, he's still struggling through the first sector. Huge kick and then another spin. So, yeah, it is wet out there on the Marina Bay Street circuit.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it may not look bad, but it just made the track very, very greasy. It may not even need the intermediates at this moment in time, but just due to the fact you don't get much time to warm up these tyres, and just overall you don't really get a good enough heat cycle into the brakes themselves as well. You just end up running wide, locking up, making these slides, and it just makes the track a little bit too greasy to set competitive lap times. We saw the likes of Giovanni 6 seconds down on their previous laps. They cannot pick up the power where they usually do it, but brilliantly done from Sanger. He saw Ionut take that provisional pole away from him, and when he knew the rain was coming, the pressure did not faze him at all, and he was able to take back that pole position, and we could maybe see him gallop off into the distance. We'll have to wait and see, though. Of course, 2 DRS zones around this circuit from turn 5 all the way to turn 7. Then from turn 13 to 14, the game hasn't added the DRS zone into turn 16 just yet. So hopefully they do that in an upcoming patch. But Joris now into the pit lane. We'll wait for him to come just to be ruled back in. No, he's retired before his mechanics are able to do that. But that is the end of your qualifying session. Kind of disappointed that it was disrupted because I would have loved to see if anyone could have got close to Arian Sanga's Yap, or even he could even beat it further. But that is the end of your qualifying session. And what a dominant lap it was from Sangya to put it on pole position from Ironut, from NSR, Mikulas, Danako, Bayer, Chevalier, Alfie, Redmir, and Dinalescu, rounding out your top 10. Those are the 10 drivers that are in the points-paying positions when we move into the race. Of course, we'll have a lobby restart to turn the slipstreaming and the ghosting back on. But quali pace is one thing, race pace is another. And with these heavier loads, these cars are certainly going to be a hassle through these sectors and through the tight, twisty corners of the Marina Bay Street circuit. So, will Sangya be able to replicate his pace, or will it just be a one-hit wonder from the Hassman?
I mean, 2/10 ahead of the rest of the field is certainly a statement to have made. And if he's able to keep that up, then, I mean, fair play to the man. But, yeah, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to keep up that much of an advantage over the rest of the field. But some drivers do specialize at certain locations. We didn't actually see anybody specialize in Kota, but in the end, Justin Chevalier, he would come out on top. We're going to go to the first 5 lights for the Singapore Grand Prix, or the Crashgate Grand Prix, and Daniel's had a jump start. He's the only one to jump start. Chevalier and Christian Lubinov have retired straight away, followed by Dinalescu and Alexandrov. Voss follows, so does Krisu and Joris, and then we see a sliding Aston Martin, a teleporting Mercedes. Ariane Sanger leading the field away with the massive plumes of smoke that are coming up behind the Haas. That is a devastating crash for the Williams. Mikulas, another one for a McLaren. I believe that was Giovanni Boruzza. That's a huge shunt for Alfie. Somebody flashed in the somebody flashed in the background of the screen, and Mouchoir is going to be your victor out of Ariane Sanger. As he's desperately trying to retire, to be fair to him. There we go. There goes the kick Sauber. And that is the end of a very short Grand Prix. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. No, of course not. But yeah, we will return in just a couple of minutes with the race action. But at the moment, we'll have a little bit of a chinwag. We'll have a little bit of a chat about some of the drivers. Catch Max up on maybe what happened last week, in case he didn't see the action. Catch you up on on what happened last week, in case you didn't catch the action. But yes, it was myself alongside Alex Bagnall last week making his debut, and pretty impressive debut in the comms box alongside me. But it was an impressive debut, an impressive start to Season 5 for Justin Chevalier, picking up victory. It was a huge train of cars in the fight for the lead. That was until the pit stops, where, well, we saw Mikulas and Tim Bayer come together. They had a huge shunt in the final sector that saw them retire. And from there, it was just a case of Chevalier versus Ironut. And although, having said that, the two McLarens, with incredible teamwork, drivers of the day, they came up through the field. Giovanni Boruzza was stunted a little bit by the late, I believe it was, safety car. He never really had the pace after that. His momentum was broken. But then Dallin McTeer taking 3rd place. And a very, very well-earned 3rd place. So I'm going to switch back so we can see us. I think that I'm gonna look very stupid because I'm very close to my webcam. Max is a reasonable distance away, but here we go. There we go. I look ridiculous. I will unplug my microphone, apparently, is what I'll do. But I'll try and sort that out. But race predictions, Max?
Oh, race predictions. This is always very tricky to decide. Of course, as I said earlier, quali pace is one thing, race pace is another. So really, the race is really unknown because just due to how different the cars do handle on low fuel and high fuel. But I'll do a whole podium. I'll go for third place. I'm going to go for Chevalier. I think he can make his way up from 6th on the grid to the podium. Second place, I'm going to go for NSR. And then the race winner, I will say Ariane Sanya to come along and win the Grand Prix. It just seems that pace can certainly be correlated to at least a 10th difference a lap over the rest of the field at the very least, to just make sure he has that upper hand coming into this Grand Prix. Of course, this race going to be oh so difficult, and overtaking is going to be tricky as well. So if Sangha can keep his distance, make sure he has a good 5-6 tenths buffer heading down into turn 7, he certainly could put himself in a good chance of keeping the lead lap after lap. We'll just have to wait and see though. But with 31 laps ahead of us this evening, this track ever so difficult on not only the physical but on the mental endurance as well. You're constantly looking at apexes, looking at where the walls are in correlation to your cars. You're looking everywhere around your screen, and it is a very, very tiring race, to say the least. We should be getting underway very, very shortly. But Kotkaz, what are your race predictions this evening?
I see. I love a little devil's advocate. I don't think that Ariane Sanger will find his place on that podium this evening. I think it's mainly the devil's advocate side of things. But I just think you can have it over one lap, but you need to maintain that over an entire race distance. And we did see Chevalier do that last week. We saw though Dallin McTeer do that to an incredible amount last time out alongside Giovanni, just fighting their way up the grid. It was impressive. It was impressive stuff from the two McLarens. I actually think it's going to be Dallin McTeer coming from 14th on the grid, I believe it is. I think he's going to take one of the podium spots. I don't think he's going to take the victory, though. I think he's going to take second, and it's going to be victory for Ionut, who, I mean, last time out, he just seemed to constantly be there. And that's what you need to be in a place like this. You need to just be there. And he did an impressive job of that last time out in Kota. We'll see, because this is a incredible test for the drivers. It's going to be so difficult for them to do all these 31 laps, more difficult than you'd expect as we are now loading into the race lobby. But yeah, I'm going to go for Ionut for the lead, Dallin McTeer for that second place, and then I think NSR, he was in 4th place last time out. That was pretty decent. I think he's going to be able to just go that one step further. I think it's going to be 3rd place for NSR. So actually removing Justin Chevalier from the top 4, I've gone for an exact prediction of 2nd, 3rd, and 4th from last time out, and just I'll maintain consistency. I'll put Justin Chevalier in that 4th place as well. So it's the same top 4 from last time out. Which, on reflection, now that I've said that, I don't actually think that's going to happen. That is my prediction based on their pace. But with the way that the PC Tier 5 is, there is absolutely no way that we're going to get the same drivers up there week in, week out. So, hey, maybe Ariane Sanger can spring a surprise. Maybe someone further back can spring a surprise. Mikolas and Tim Bayer, 2 quick drivers. They haven't gotten off the mark yet in this season, so they could spring a surprise. And then also the likes of the 2 Mercedes. You've got Alfie and Redmers, who they finished outside the points last time out. Alfie didn't actually finish at all, but Redmers he finished 12th, so it wasn't ideal for the two Mercedes last time out. They'll be trying to fight back with a vengeance. We're going to go into the next section now, and let's have a look and a little natter about tyre strategies. What sort of tyres are we expecting to see tonight?
Probably a hard, medium hard. The tyre wear is quite high around this circuit, obviously just due to the nature of it being such an abrasive surface, and also just how many corners there are and how tight and twisty it is. So tire wear is very high. So a hard, medium, medium, hard really are your optimum strategies here tonight. Hard medium probably is the best of the two, but still, you can't count out the inverse strategy, going on that quicker tyre first and then going on to the slower at the end. But take us away here, Cockcaz. The 5 red lights are now.
We're going to go to the 5 red lights for the Singapore Grand Prix. It's lights and it's action. Daniel has had a jump start at the rear of the field. Ariane Sanger's going to lead into turn 1. NSR and Ironut side by side just behind NSR. He is in second place. It's 3 wide further back with the 2 Mercedes, Alfie, Redmers and Tim Bayer. Alfie comes out on top in that. Redmers actually really struggles. He drops down to P9. We've got side-by-side action with Mouchoir as well. He drops to P13 after just getting a poor exit out of turn number 4. But yeah, lots of position switching. There's a RB sending it down the inside of Robert Dinilescu on Tim Bayer. Tim Bayer runs wide and Dinilescu just trying to keep a tyre in there. He's unable to. Then you've just got Redmers and Christian Luminov fighting for the final points positions. Redmers comes out or on top in that battle in terms of the fact that it was for P11. There's a Ferrari going around in the background, by the way. That is of Joris, whose disaster weekend goes from bad to worse. But Ariane Sanger continues to lead this race as that was, I believe, a Kick Sauber almost losing the rear. I think it was a Mouchoir. And he... well, now he's looking forward at Christian Luminov. I don't know how he's managed to do that after almost losing the rear. That was damage further up. Robert Dinilescu may be struggling now as he's continuing to stick to the rear of Tim Bayer in that 8th place. A chaotic start then to this Singapore Grand Prix. And we've got 30 laps to go. Very exciting. Ariane Sanger will lead after the end of the first lap. NSR in second. Almost an entire second ahead of Ironut in third. And it'll be interesting to see whether the Romanian can maintain that DRS. But it's a good start for the top 2. Alfie moves past Justin Chevalier into 5th place. Daniel has picked up a 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane after, well, an awful start for both Daniel and Joris. Joris, who, well, he wasn't able to set a valid lap, and then he came in and had issues. NSR making a move for the lead of the race to the inside. Ariane Sanger clinging to the outside. Fighting back. A switchback could be on for Sanger as NSR locks up, just covers the line of the Haas. And the Aston Martin will maintain that lead as Ironut has now closed that gap down to the top 2 to about 0.6. So DRS will be available for the RB as they head down the next straight out of turn number 13, out of the hairpin. And we'll see whether any moves are going to be made.
Yeah, yes, we shall. Brilliant start there from NSR to keep with Ariane Sanger, but crucially, the Aston Martin is on that medium compounded tyre compared to Ironut, Sanger and Mikolas behind. Mikolas goes very deep into turn 14. This could put him under pressure from Alfie as we head through 15 and as we make the run all the way down to turn 16 and 17. But luckily for Mikolas, Alfie not able to get close enough for a move into the chicane, and now a big slide for Alfie. Justin Chevalier not able to capitalise on that. A very eventful opening. That was a yellow flag. That's for Joris again. His day just going from bad to worse to utter abysmal at the start of this Grand Prix. Robert Dinilescu looking for a move on Tim Bayer. We've got a real selection of tyre strategies in this Grand Prix. Mouchoir on a soft compounded tyre. He's the only driver on the red walled tyre. NSR, Alfie, Dinilescu, Lubanov, Sandrov, Banik and Daniel all on the mediums. Everybody else on that hard compounded tyre. McTeer now getting past Sandrov. That is for 14th place. He's not had the best start here. Has Dallin McTeer. He's still recovering from that poor qualifying and a big slide into turn 9. That's allowed Sandrov to get the good old switcheroo and straight up into 14th place he goes. And Dallin McTeer still under pressure now from Timon Voss in the Kick Sauber. So for the McLaren, he really is struggling to get the car stopped into corners. That could be a setup issue and that could play a big effect on his race. Here comes Mouchoir on the inside of Redmid, trying to put those red wall soft tyres to use, not able to do so, and that's another yellow flag for Joris. His day is absolutely horrid right now. He's not having any fun at all, but Mouchoir looking to get closer to the back of Redmir. He needs to make these tyres work. He needs to at least get in this top 10 before the pit window, but just due to how difficult it is to overtake around this circuit is very much impossible. Mikulus being overtaken by Alfie into the final corner. A very strange move there from the Mercedes on the Williams, so maybe a mistake there from Mikulus, but Alfie now up to 4th. His eyes now set on Ironut, who's gone very deep into turn 3, and this can now open the door for Alfie with the DRS, as the V-Carb in front will not have any in his favour.
He's got a mysterious lack of pace, does the RB, with regards to everything. He's 2.2 seconds down on Ariane Sanger and increasing. Alfie will try to decrease that as he makes his way past in the first sector. And the Mercedes will try to gain on Sanger. Sanger on the hard compounder tyre being dragged along at the moment by NSR on the mediums. So this is playing right into the Haas's hands. And it means that new competitors could be on this podium. Ariane Sanger not racing last time out. NSR in 4th place. We're only a lap 4 though. So we've got a lot of race to develop, because last time out it looked like Mikulus was going to absolutely roll the field. But then we saw what happened with that in the end. So... I mean, the Williams man, he's in 5th place at the moment. He could have a complete reverse of last time out, and he could fight forward and fight his way into the battle for that victory. At the moment, he finds himself in 5th place in that train behind Alfie that stretches all the way from P3 to P13. Christian Lubanoff, the back of this field. Mouchoir at the moment, he will be hoping to make more progress because he's on those softs. The drivers ahead of him are on the hards. That's Giovanni Bruzza and Redmer. Then it's Robert Delescu, and then it's a huge chunk of drivers on those hards. So Mouchoir, he'll be wanting to take the opportunity on those softs as much as he possibly can with those ambitious moves. But just the pace has been lacking so far for the Kick Sauber, and he's been trying to force it. That means that he's picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. He is the first driver to do so as Ariane Sanger makes a move past NSR for the lead of this race with that DRS. Ironut could have been shaping one up on Alfie. He wasn't. Well, he isn't making that move for the time being. But Christian Lubanoff, he is. He's making a move on Mouchoir, whose tyres could already be shot. We'll have a look, see at these drivers now as they head through. Mouchoir, no, he's still got a bit of grip. I think Christian Lubanoff did back out a little bit. But in the end, that's what happened. I think Dallin McTim may have even left the session because he and Timon Voss are inside each other as they head through the Singapore Sling. Timon Voss coming out on top in the end of Dallin McTir, but a big slide invites Dallin McTir back in. I know he's back solid, so maybe there was a little bit of contact between them two, maybe a little bit of a desync as Dallin McTir goes invisible again. I'm not sure what's happening to the McLaren, but maybe it's me jinxing him. It's the race prediction curse coming back. I don't think I've got a single one of those right in the last, well, ever since I've started commentating in WOR. So maybe I am more of a curse than a blessing for some of the drivers. But yeah, for Dallin McTir, it's not going well. He's dropped to P17 now. And for those that I didn't predict a podium, Ariane Sanger, NSR, Alfie as well. All three of those I didn't really think had a sniff. NSR maybe, but at the moment that is your podium.
Yeah, good drive so far from Alfie, NSR, and Sanger. Alfie is really getting closer to the back of the Aston Martin over the past lap. He did gain about half a second, but then has slowly dropped it with the DRS usage that NSR does have on Sanger. Mouchoir once again being overtaken here by Lubanoff. Those soft tyres really have hit the cliff, and here comes Sandrov as well. Not one, but two Red Bulls able to get past the Kick Sauber, and unfortunately the gamble has not paid off there for Mouchoir, and he will keep falling further and further back down the order until he comes into that pit lane. But he tried going for an opportunistic strategy, tried getting those early moves, but just due to the nature of the circuit, how tight and twisty it is, it was not able to pay off at all. But back further up the front, Mikulus could be looking at making a move on Iron over the next few corners. That's a slide there from Alfie into turn 14. This could open the door for the V-Carb as Joris fast retirement of this race here in Singapore. So far, and heading through turn 17, gets back on the tower nicely, but Alfie on those mediums. At the minute, those are the quicker tyres, so he can just slowly pull away on corner X. It'll be DRS open for the V-car, but once more. Is he going to get close enough for him even to turn 1? No, we'll back out of it. He's just thinking about that run into turn 7. He needs to make that switch, because if he doesn't, he'll lose too much time to that top 2. Bannock now pick up a 10-second time penalty. Disaster for both Ferraris as the Scarlet Horses both retire from the Grand Prix. Here comes Ironut on Alfie. He'll look to the outside line. Nicely done there from the V-car, and gets it stopped on the brakes. A little bit wide, but luckily able to stay in front of the Mercedes as we head into turn 8, and then it will head up in gap around about 2.2, 2.1 seconds. They're doing everything they can to keep the charging field behind. And for them to, they're just all focusing on keeping an arm's reach, coming into the pit window when they can, and just trying to keep the traffic at bay. But for Sanger, he's ready to start tap.
Yeah, Ariane Sanger at the moment, he is breaking that gap to NSR. Yeah, 0.8, 0.9 seconds now on lap 7 of this Grand Prix. And yeah, it's incredible stuff so far from the Haas man, that he's been able to hold on to that lead despite being on the harder compound of tyre. I'm just going to try and get back in. I think I may have solved the issue. There's been a lot of mic lag, not from my side, but we've got what's happened here. A little bit of shuffling, I think that was, as there's Danko in P7. Lots of the drivers looking to start to make moves. Mikolas looking on the rear of Alfie, not making that move for the time being because he was waiting for the corner exit for the mistake from the Mercedes, and now he's able to power his way through into P4, and the Williams moves up. Giovanni Burazza in the background, he gets past Robert Dinalescu, he's up into P9. The fights are beginning as the drivers are just reaching that crossover period with those mediums and the hards at the moment. Christian Lubinov, he makes it past Redmers, and he's still able to just those mediums are still working for him. Not so much though for Alfie, who's starting to suffer from grip issues. Those are the advantage that the mediums had. It's not quite so much anymore, and so he's just trying to gain it back. He's going to be benefited by the fact that there's fighting going on just behind Justin Chevalier and Danko, with Chevalier coming on top in that battle. But we've talked about it a lot so far. The teamwork of the two McLarens was impressive last time out. The two Hasses and the two Alpines, they find themselves in this battle, though the two Hasses less so, because Ariane Sanger has now actually broken DRS to NSR ahead. But yeah, the two Alpines, they could work together, a la the two McLarens last time out, and we could be seeing a strong performance. They did work together well last week to maintain the DRS for an incredibly long time, with Chevalier leading and Tim Bayer in that pack as well. And then when they swapped over, Tim Bayer was still able to control the pace. So your teammate being there can work incredibly in your favour. Mikolas doesn't need a teammate, though, to make his way past Ironut. He's up into P number 3 ahead of the RB. Justin Chevalier, in the meantime, he's alongside Alfie. He's ahead of Alfie. And, yeah, he makes the move into turn number 9. And he moves up. Is it? It's not turn number 9. It's turn number 8. My apologies. But, yeah, Alfie drops down once again. Those tyres are starting to fall off. And you have to think that maybe he could be considering an early pit stop.
Yeah, those mediums are really starting to hit the cliff. You can really see between Sanya and NSR. It's now nearly 2 seconds between that top two. Those mediums really are starting to give up. It's 4 or 5 laps or so. They could see themselves plummeting out of race winning contention. I did say the hard medium could be the optimal one, and that certainly is what is showing right now. Another big slide from NSR. He's got no confidence to put the power on. He really is struggling with that rear traction, with that rear grip, and he really is now in no man's land. We've got Iron Up maybe looking for a move on Mikolas, heading into turns 1, 2, and 3, but not able to get the move done so far for the V-car. But look how much they're gaining just through these tight, twisty sections on the struggling NSR, who's on very, very worn medium compounded tyres. Another big slide for the Aston Martin. Out of turn 5. If he's good enough on the power, we could maybe see a run out of turn 9 and maybe a bold move into 10. But another rear locking moment for NSR. He is losing time by the corner. Every inch of track, he's just fighting the car to get it turned in, to get the power down. And unfortunately, this at one point in this Grand Prix wasn't able to break that DRS and is now struggling and falling backwards through the field. You'll see in a moment's time. Nicholas now with the DRS. He can now use this to his advantage. Get close enough. Gets a good run out of turn 14. And those tyres really are. This is where Nicholas needs to make his move. Right now with the slipstream into turn 16. But no, doesn't even bother to burn the tree to go for a move. He's just going to sit behind, but this is going to make him bleed time to your race leader. Sanya's looking. It's going to allow Iron now go for a move into someone. No, he's going to back out of it as well. Sanya leads. It's up to 4 seconds. Something's happened to Justin Chevalier. Maybe a slight half spin. For the Alpine, that's dropped him all the way from Martin. Here comes Iron up to follow him through, and he manages to just get the car stopped in that V-carb to get by. Danko able to get past Alfie as well. Those medium, but they still will have to try take them for another 3 or 4 laps. All those to this Grand Prix, and it'll be a similar story to what we're seeing now, but currently those medium runners are drowning through the field.
Yeah, Alfie and NSR really not having a good time up there. Robert Danilescu losing time as well, and Christian Lubinov and Yanni Alexandrov too far back for it to seemingly make a difference as Tim Bayer looks to shape a move on Alfie unsuccessfully, and he actually picks up a penalty for his troubles. He moves, or he tries to move up into P6. He does eventually move up into P6 ahead of Alfie as Giovanni Buruzza makes the move on. Oh no, it was Justin Chevalier dropping down into P number 10 behind the V-carb of Robert Danilescu as we head on to lap 12 of this Grand Prix. And Ariane Sanger with a dominant lead. He's hoping to just continue to stay there. But, well, we know what happened last week to the dominant race leader. It didn't translate in the end to the race victory as Ironut makes his way past Nicholas with the DRS. He is in the lead of this race. And hopefully he's going to be able to say the yellow flag's out, as that is Daniel, who's had another issue. As in the meantime, Redmers gets past Christian Lubinov, and the mediums are starting to fall off now. Yanni Alexandrov looking to fight with his own teammates for that P12 spot, and Timon Voss just behind, looking to try to close that gap. But at the moment, it's looking as though those mediums are starting to drop off. Timon Voss will be trying to make his way past, as will Danko, as will Giovanni Buruzza, as will Justin Chevalier, all drivers behind those on the medium compound of tyre. And although, I mean, Justin Chevalier, I don't know what's going on with him. He must have had a desync or something like that, because, well, he's really struggling. He's just dropped another position to Redmer, and, well, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, he's dropped now 2 more places to the 2 Red Bulls. Another one to Timon Voss, another one to that. Even Dallin McTeer, who I'm not sure what's gone on with him. I think he may have rejoined now as coming into the pits. Goes Chevalier, I believe. No, he doesn't. He continues on. That was Christian Lubinov diving into the pits. And he will be getting rid of those medium compound of tyre.
Yep.
And he's gone on to a set of hards. We'll see how long those hards are going to last for the Red Bull. Hopefully to the end of the race now, because, well, I mean, he should be able to do 18 laps, as it is 18 laps on that hard compound of tyre. But Ariane Sanger, we'll see how long he's able to stick with this set of hard compounded tyre. 4 seconds up now on Mikolas. And the rest of the pack. Ironut just behind NSR, slightly bigger gap behind, 1.3 seconds to the Aston Martin, who's really, really struggling. You'd think that he's going to start to fall down the grid a little bit more with Danko just trying to close up to the back. And, well, we'll see. We'll see. I think NSR needs overtaking at some point very, very soon, with the Haas only just behind, waiting in the wings, as we very well know. Tim Bayer as well, just behind. He is baying and ready to make that overtake. And the Alpine, at some point, he'll be, I think, more desperate to get past Danko as Ironut makes that move into turn number 1 on the Williams of Mikolas. And, yeah, there's, well, interestingly enough, I've only just spotted there's 3 ET8 drivers in the top 3. So they have an absolute dominance over the rest of the field. Giovanni Baruzza in P8, Dallin McTeer in P13, not quite reflecting that same dominance, but Mikolas and Ironut continuing to fight. Mikolas makes his way up into P2. Danko makes his way up to P4, and the misery could be compounding for NSR. Indeed it is, as NSR drops to P6. Tim Bayer climbs to P5, and the hard runners are really working their way through the medium runners now.
Yeah, they certainly are. They're really trying to make their way up through the order and try it and get dispatched. These medium runners next on that list is Barazua, but he unfortunately is 3.1 seconds off the pace. But Mikolas now 4. This Haas driver really is, even with the DRS play that Ironut and Mikolas are doing, just trying to swap at every given opportunity. Sanya is still pulling away. So Sanya, he has turned that quali pace into the race pace. We did question if he was able to, and he certainly has shushed me and Kotkaz, turning that is compared to everybody behind. When he can come into the pit lane, Dinalescu now into the pits, the first driver for VCAR. You do 5 laps. Don't know what's happened to Chevalier. He's on the Alpine. I did suspect and Danico, but unfortunately for last time out race winner, it really does make for the Aston Martin, and unfortunately his day gets worse as well. That's Mukwa getting past Justin Chevalier, who's out of the race. He's crashed on the exit turn 8. I know a virtual safety car is deployed, or safety car, because that would have brought opportunity. Now they will as well for boxing a lap earlier, but for the likes of NSR, Alfie and Sandrov, they can take this opportunity to come into the pit lane. Sanya into the pit lane, Mikolas as well. Iron stays out. This is where strategy is going to be absolutely key. I feel like these hard runners might be a tad bit too early, because they'll suffer the same fate as the drivers on the mediums did only a few laps ago.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for some of the drivers to just. It's going to be difficult at this point for them to see what's the right strategy, what's the wrong strategy. We'll have to wait and see. But at this current moment in time, it's looking as though some of them are going to struggle as there's drive-through penalties being applied. Christian Lubinov, Chrisu retires from the session, and Dallin McTeer, he is in the pits. He's one of only 2 drivers alongside Yanni Alexandrov to be caught out by that pit stop period. And Christian Lubinov goes and retires from the session. Unfortunate end to the Red Bulls evening, but one of only 3 drivers not to pit under the virtual safety car, excuse me. One of them being Robert Dinilescu, who pitted on the lap before. Ironut, 15 laps old hard compound of tyre that appear to be
managed, but
yeah, and then Mouchoir, who came into the pits early on for those new hard compound of tyre. Ariane Sanger, interestingly enough, well, most of the grid has switched onto the medium, so they think they're going to make it to the end of the race on these tyres. But at the moment, they're just trying to get them warmed up now, which is where NSR and Alfie, they're going to be struggling even more with those hards, although Alfie not looking like it. Bump drafting Mouchoir through the final sector. There's yellow flags out as Daniel has gone round again in the first sector, but Alfie heading through the final corner. He's right on the rear of Mouchoir in the kick Sauber, looking to the inside line into turn number 1. Can he make this move stick? He's going to try and make it stick. He is indeed, but he's going to pick up a 3-second time penalty for his troubles, exceeding track limits ever so slightly, and that is him off. Robert Dinilescu, in the meantime, taking the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's in P12 currently, so that will not... I mean, it'll benefit him because now he's caught up to the back of Timon Voss, which means he's caught up to the back of Redmer, which means he's in the fight for the final points position. Tell you who else is in a fight. Giovanni Baruzza, Mouchoir, and Alfie. The McLaren inviting himself into this battle now. He'll want to get past as soon as possible because of the fact that there is that Mouchoir is on those worn tyres, that Alfie is on those hards. He wants to make the advantage of those mediums stick for as long as he can, and 9th place at the moment is where he's going to stick. Danko will have the DRS on the exit to turn number 13, and out of it, he's going to have a full ERS tank actually as he tries to chase down Tim Bayer, but he's just not quite got the momentum. Giovanni Baruzza, in the meantime, makes that move finally on Mouchoir, and he heads up into P8 ahead of the kick Sauber. He now sets his sights on Alfie, the Mercedes, who was able to get past Mouchoir as well, but now he's 2 seconds behind NSR, the next driver, as Ariane Sanger continues his dominance over all of the statistics today. He takes the fastest lap of the race. He moves up just 8 seconds behind Ironut now, 8 seconds ahead of Mikola, so he's got a lot of time where he doesn't need to drop anything. He just needs to continue doing what he's doing, which is harder than you'd think around this circuit, but you never know. I mean, so far this race, he has run an absolutely perfect one, and so I wouldn't be surprised if he continues this. If he continues this for the last 13 laps of this race.
Yeah, me either. It's going to be interesting to see how Sanya develops over the next few laps. Of course, that gap 1.8 lose. How much time he has in that bag. When he came out compared to Ironut, the gap was 15 seconds. In the span of 2 laps, he's brought it down to 7.1. That just shows the pace he has on hand. It does help that those hard tyres are falling off the cliff rapidly. They are really starting to struggle. But for Sanger, he has just got bags of pace and bags of confidence to just throw the car into the corners. It makes... He rides the curbs enough, brings it all the way to the outside wall. He shows no fear for this Marina Bay street circuit, and he really is just pushing that car to the absolute limit, lap after lap, and he is really starting to reel in Ironut. I think he's made the wrong call to stay out for so long on those hard compounded tyres, which is unfortunate after running such a good race, but it does seem when he's in clear air Ironut, he does tend to make some mistakes. He's not the most composed driver when the other way around. That gap now 7.1 seconds, between Ironut and Sanger. 8 seconds exactly between Mikolas and Sanger. Tim Bayer has flag, and that was for Daniel, who brought out that yellow flag. I thought for a second it was Daniel just moving out the way for some cars, throwing a little bit of jeopardy in the air there, maybe for the likes of who was hoping that would have been a safety car. Respect to Daniel, though, for staying out in this Grand Prix so far. He is a lap down, but still pushing forward, still getting some valuable learning of this game and of this circuit for future reference, and that could pay dividends come a future season here in WOR. But for Sanya, that gap now 5.4 between him and Ironut into the pit lane now. The strategy has just not gone his way. He went for the risky play to stay out a few laps longer. It has not worked in his favour, and unfortunately he'll drop quite a way down the field. Back through the field, he's got to drop behind, I would say, the... So that's where I would expect Ironut to come up, maybe even behind Simon Voss. Time he has lost with this pit stop. He's down to 12th place, was in second, so 10 places lost due to this virtual safety car. And unfortunately for him, he's dropping further and further away from a potential top 5 finish. That's Alfie getting past Barazura there. Those hards will start to come into play, and a big slide for Alfie. I was about to say those hard tyres will come into play. They will be the quicker tyre in the next few laps or so. I'll go straight back by, and the Mercedes back down to 7th place.
Yeah, it's not been Alfie's day so far. I think there's been too many mistakes made by the Mercedes driver, and yeah, in the end, it's not come off, but he will still have that advantage of being on those harder compound of tyres. As they head to the end of the race, Ironut making his way past his teammate Robert Dinilescu. I failed to see how easy that move was made, but I'm sure that it wasn't difficult. Not only does Dinilescu know that this is not his race, but also, you know, he's his teammate. Again, teamwork is critically important, and Ironut will be grateful that Dinilescu has not made that difficult as he's heading around the final corner on the 21st lap of this Grand Prix, and he follows Timon Voss through as Voss tries to attack Redmar. Ironut, though, with 4 laps softer medium compound of tyres, he's going to have an opportunity to make an overtake at some point soon, and he's going to want to make that some point soon. Mikolas picking up a 3-second time penalty. Ironut apparently moving alongside Timon Voss. I've got a little bit of lag, but there's 3 wide there as Ironut goes through on Timon Voss and Redmar. And Redmar loses out in the end. And he could be losing out further with Robert Dinilescu just behind. But Ironut, most importantly, has made his way up into P9. And he's ahead of Timon Voss and Redmar, who could have been huge, huge players in the rest of this race. Tim Bayer makes his way past Danko into P number 3. And the Alpine, he's trying to fight his way back into contention. The penalties could be applied, however, later on in this race. Danko losing the position to NSR. And, well, they're ghosting again a little bit. I'm not 100% sure what's going on. I think I may have a little bit of lag on my end. But Danko holds on to that position as they head on to lap 22. Yellow flag's out for somebody. It looks like it's Mouchoir who's having issues. It may not be, actually. It might be Mouchoir as he's coming into the pits now, lap 26. And is he missing an end plate? I believe he was. So, yeah, unfortunate for him. But, I mean, he went for the alternative strategy. It didn't quite work out. And he was left to rue it. As now, lap 22 of this Grand Prix, Tim Bayer, he just holds on to that podium position. He and Mikolas need to work together to get that gap over Danko and NSR, who don't have penalties at this point in time, as Daniel takes the fastest lap of the race. And, yeah, they need to work together if they want any chance of a podium.
Yeah, they certainly will. I mean, Nicholas and Tim Bayer, I mean, it's going to be difficult to do with Danko and NSR both being in their DRS window, but they will need to try and break that and pray that Danko and NSR do get in a scrap of their own, because they're both still currently fighting for a 2nd place finish. Danko a bit wide into turn 14. This could give NSR the run he needs in turn at 16. Alfie as well starting to close back in on this battle. He has a 3-second time penalty, unfortunately, as well to boot. bringing the McLaren up. 10.4 seconds behind Ariane Sangha. This has been a drive of all drives around the Marina Bay Street Circuit so far for the Haas man. So as we exit out of turn 2 and 3 for the drivers in second, third, fourth and fifth, it's all about this DRS zone. Will NSR go for the move this time around? He's close to the back of the Haas. He will want to make this move. Those tyres will be better as that's of turn so well as a virtual safety car's now. What was going oh so well? He was getting into this scrap for a podium place. It is all unravelled once again for the McLaren driver, caught out by a late safety car in Texas, caught out by his own doing with a spin through turn 5, and for Giovanni, his luck so far in his opening 2 rounds has been absolutely horrid. And he's fallen down behind his teammate. Disaster for Giovanni Bazzura, because that was looking to be a race where he could have at least got P3. And unfortunately for him, he was not able to do so. And a virtual safety car deployed means it all settles down once again. But we're back underway here in Marina Bay. We go racing once again from that VSC. Alfie picking up a VSC drive-through. So the drivers who are catching up to this battle, there goes Danko trying to defend from NSR, who's pushing him through to 17. The Aston Martin looking ever so racy behind the Haas man. He's going to try maybe look for a move into turn 1. That would be bold. But for the drivers in 6 and 7, both having mistakes of their own doing as Alfie retires, costing them valuable points, which could hinder them when it comes to their championship challenge, because these rounds all the way to round 6 are absolutely crucial for their championship charge. Have Bazzura and Alfie, their races will come to a premature end as Tim Bayer gets past Mikolas, makes a mistake, and luckily wasn't capitalised there on Mikolas. On Danko in front. Start looking ever so racy. Those hards will be in the optimum window. Turn 13. Will the Aston look for a lunge into turn 14?
He's gone for a lunge, and it's, I mean, he's just continuing to try to fight with Danko. There is further contact between the Haas and the Aston Martin, but the Aston Martin isn't giving up on it very easily, although he's just given up on it there, as he maybe looked for a switch-back move on the Haas. Unable to make it stick, and so NSR, he's going to stick behind for another lap on Danko. How long, though, is this going to last? As he tries maybe to pull out, not so, and yeah, he just sticks behind in 5th place. The Aston Martin really needing to make this move at this point in the race, because those hards are, well, they're gonna become even better and even better as they go later on into this race, and he wants to be in the best position to take advantage of it as he can at the moment. Danko is ahead as Dallin McTeer retires in the pits. He doesn't feel as though he's going to get anything out of this race, and he was in P11 and he retires in P11. More ghosting for NSR as he tries to go around the outside of Danko. He makes that move stick this time, but he's 1.1 seconds down on Mikolas, and it might be difficult now for him to get back into the DRS, or it may be simple. Nope, he's not back in the DRS. He almost made it look very, very easy to make it back into there, but no such luck, and he's just going to have to stay behind and stay out of the DRS. He'll see Mikolas and Tim Bayer making the most of that DRS ahead, and well, it depends now on what NSR has a view on this race. Does he care about Tim Bayer and Mikolas ahead? Or does he think that he'll be able to catch Ariane Sangha with 5 laps left to go in this race? I find it unlikely, as there's more yellow flags out for Daniel, who's really, really struggled this race. But NSR, he has made it back into the DRS. It's a little bit jumpy all over the place, out and then in and then out and then in again. But yeah, NSR, he will continue on at the moment in 4th place. as well in fourth place on track. If the race was to finish now, if the checkered flag was to be thrown out, it would be NSR taking that second place ahead of Tim Bayer and Nicholas, who both have penalties. Danko would be taking that third place as it stands, but Bayer and Nicholas will see this as absolutely vital that they can break away now from NSR. They will be pushing those medium tyres to the limit and seeing if they can re-break DRS.
Yeah, they certainly will. And look at that, half a second now between Nicholas and NSR. Just a purchase. The back of the Williams. Just going to back off of between the Williams and the Alpine. And this is allowing NSR to get. Still fighting with heading into turn 16 and 17, and unfortunately not close enough for a move. NSR not really turn 1, 2. The Aston Martin behind. Fourth place, currently in this Grand Prix, maybe even. Will NSR get close enough? No, he's dropped off over the course of that first sector. So for the Aston Martin driver, it's now looking at a lunge into turn 8, but he can work at him. He and nice and cleanly. So for NS front of him, of Tim Bayer, going to be struggling with traction. DRS open for NSR once again. Last time around with NSR trying to get a run out of turn 14 and not able to do it as we head into 16 and 17.
Yeah, we've got 3 laps left to go in this Grand Prix, and second place is still yet to be decided. Nicholas leading the way at the moment, but he and Tim Bayer both have 3 seconds worth of penalties, and NSR just behind. With no penalties, Danko following through as well, and Iron not too far off, able to take the advantage if any more penalties are applied to anybody at the end of this race. NSR, though, he'll want to take this on track, and he's very, very close now to the rear of Tim Bayer. The overtake would be incredibly important if he's able to get ahead of the Alpine, to maybe make a little bit of a gap between himself and Danko as he makes contact with Tim Bayer, and Bayer is off the circuit. Another race, another piece of contact between the Alpine and another driver, which has made him lose out this time. It is not a DNF, but it may as well be, but in terms of the mental effect that it'll have on Tim Bayer, because now he's dropped down into P5 on circuit. P6 after penalties are applied. He'll be desperately pushing his way forward. That would have woken him up from a little bit of a slumber, because he would have just been preparing for the last 3 laps of this race. He'll have to reevaluate now, as that was huge contact. That's just cost Tim Bayer any opportunity now of a podium. NSR looking at the rear of Nicholas now. The Aston Martin trying to close up to the Williams. And we'll see if he's able to make this overtake. If he is, it'll most likely be on a DRS straight. There is a DRS straight down the main straight. And NSR has full opportunity to go for it down the main straight, trying to close in. Maybe. Unlikely, as he tucks back into it. His teammate, in the meantime, 21 seconds worth of penalties. He's about to be lapped twice after going for a spin again in the first sector. But Nicholas just holding on to that race, to that lead in this battle in P2. NSR desperate.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there's not really any point getting the stream back up.
No, hello. Is the stream back on?
I don't think it is. I'm not sure.
Oh, it is. It is back up, but
It
it's not
is.
on the
We
game.
can see your screen. Yeah, you disconnected.
Yeah, I disconnected from everything. If you keep tabs on it, we can do the interviews. I'll go to an intermission screen.